How we doing, everyone? Let me ask, do you want to add zeros to your net worth? The majority of people that I talk to today, let's be real, everybody wants to add zeros to their net worth. The biggest challenge is how, what are the steps that I take? Honestly, the wrong question to ask is how, but we'll cover why as I go through. Now, number one, the strategies that we hear most often, let's be real, you tell me, and I do have a couple people here in the room, but what are the main ones we hear about? We go get a job, we get good grade, or we get good grades, we get a job, and we get a 401k. Or maybe our job doesn't offer a 401k, so we go out and get an IRA. Or I went to work for the government, I went to work in the military, so I have a TSP, or here in Florida, you've got an FRS. I know other states like Texas have a TRS. What else do we use? We use ETS, we use mutual funds. We go put our money in a CD. I know my grandparents back in the day loved CDs. That was a minute ago, but it's okay. How about, what is the other things that we hear about? Dollar cost averaging. That's a great way for me to add a zero to my net worth, right? Now, the biggest question is, how long do you want to wait before you add that zero to your net worth? Is this something you're trying to accomplish the next 3 to 5 years? Is this something that you want to accomplish in the next 30 to 50 years? Because the different strategies that you utilize will really change how that time frame reacts for you. Now, the number one rule that you have to learn if you want to learn how to do this faster or slower is called the rule of 72. Now, I was debating on writing this on the whiteboard today, but today I want to have more of a conversation with you. I want to be able to go over this directly. Have you heard of the rule of 72? Now, I know the majority of you in here, we've had this conversation before. That's kind of what stemmed this. Just so you guys know, the majority of these lives that I'm doing, it's because somebody, or honestly, multiple people have reached out to me and said, hey, I want to hear about this. How did you understand this? How did you learn this? And I want to not only break it down for you, but I want to actually give you step-by-step based on what I've seen truly works, not just the concepts and the ideas, because anybody can go on and talk about a concept or an idea. Now, the rule of 72 is very, very simple. And I've studied many different ways to build wealth. And I've also had the pleasure to sit back and watch other people actually grow their wealth. And I say sit back because, yeah, when you're younger, you're not the one building it, but you have to learn from somebody in front of you. Why do we go read books? Becoming wealthy is a mindset. If the only language you're hearing is victimhood, is broke, is scarcity, then where do you think you're going to end up? But you can be as simple as, I might live in a trailer park, I might live in the ghetto, I might live wherever. But if I go read a book by somebody who's created great wealth, if I go read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if I go read Think and Grow Rich, if I go read You Were Born Rich, any of these books, and if I take that and I internalize that language, I'm going to change my story, which is going to change my identity, which could actually turn or change my wealth for myself. But when you go back to the power of zero, the rule of 72, sorry, wrong ideas today, but the rule of 72 is interesting. So I was at the bank today, and I won't say what bank, but I was at the bank today, and I saw a little thing pop up on their TV, and it said 4% interest on a CD for 2 months. I said, wow, that's a pretty good interest rate for a short-term CD these days. And then I looked, and there was stipulations. You had to put a minimum of $200,000 in to get that 4% interest rate. How many people want to park $200,000? How many people have $200,000? But the reason I'm bringing up this CD is because the rule of 72 is very simple. The rule of 72 says, take the number that you're earning. So taking the 4%, divide it by 72, and that's how many years it's going to take you to get to your goal. So if I take my little handy dandy calculator right here, because I don't want anybody to think that I'm just doing the math in my head. If I do the math and I do 4% divided by 72, I'm not actually doing 4%, I'm just doing 4. If I do 72 divided by, if I do 72 divided by 4, it's going to take me 18 years. 18 years to be able to get to my goal of doubling my money. So if I started with $100, I'm earning 4%. It's going to take me 18 years to be able to get to $200. Now, what is the average return when it comes to the stock market? Does anybody know what that is? The average return is 7 to 10%. That's an average. We talked about average versus actual, so that's a much deeper dive. But you're going to hear a lot of people say, oh, the market actually could return 12%. It could return 14%. No, the average is 7 to 10%. Now, when you're utilizing that percentage and you're looking at where am I putting my money, this is a big part. So you'll see a lot of individuals, they'll multiply their money, and they did save to start. They increased their means, but they didn't DCA, they didn't dollar cost average their way to wealth. So they used that power of 72, they used that rule of 72 to get to their goal, but they used it in the beginning saying, okay, I do want to live below my means right now. I do want to go out and pay attention to what I'm spending money on. Is it important for me to go to that, concert, or should I stay home this weekend, read another book, watch another documentary, learn a little bit more. So when I go out, I don't go sit in the back. So when I go out, I'm not going to the concert hall down the street. I'm taking a plane to Paris, to Vegas, to wherever, and I'm making this a spectacle of an event that I'm really getting an experience out of, not just something that I'm spending 15 minutes of my time. And I'm excited that I went, but I forget about it tomorrow because it wasn't something that stood out to me. That's what a lot of people do, is they're so worried about this weekend, they give up on the bigger options they have later. The rule of 72, though, you can think about it in so many different ways. And I always love to connect these, obviously, to going to the gym. What's the rule of 72 in the gym? Well, if I go to the gym and I go to the gym for 3 weeks, I'm going to see some kind of result a little bit. If I go to the gym for 12 weeks, I'm going to see more of a result. If I go to the gym for 6 months, I'm going to see more. If I go to the gym for a year, 2 years, 3 years, let's say 5 years, and I'm consistent with my diet, I'm going regularly, I've made it a lifestyle, I'm going to look completely different. You might not recognize who I am. Somebody could be 100 pounds overweight, but you give them 5 years of consistency, 5 years of compounding results, and they're going to look completely different. But there's two questions here. What if I went to the gym 1 time a week for 5 years? Will I look different? Absolutely. If I've never gone to the gym before and I go once a week for 5 years, I'm going to change how I look because I'm going to create different habits. But now what if that same person went to the gym 4 to 5 times a week for those 5 years? That's the rule of 72, because 1 time a week, so 72 divided by 1, 72 years. Very simple. But now with that 5, 72 divided by 5. And I'm giving you an example in fitness terms, and I'm giving you a little bit of a stretch here, but I want you to understand the concept. When I'm getting a return on my money, and this is why losses are so important, but this is also why what I'm going to mention right now is going to change your life when it comes to adding zeros. And by the way, I've got to add this in there because it's 2025. This is a disclaimer. This is not financial advice. It is not tailor fit to you. Please sit down with a professional, whether I'm your professional or somebody else's. This is not advice based on your goals, because that should be sat down and gone over as specific of what you're looking for. But whether you're looking at a Roth IRA, whether you're looking at an IRA, regular IRA, whether you're looking at a 401k, you name it, those are not the basic strategies to be able to help you add a zero to your net worth sooner than later. Those are the strategies that if I wait 30 to 40 years and I'm patient, I will hopefully get there with an additional zero on my net worth. I hope that makes sense, because I know a lot of us are sold that we should go get a 401k, we should go get an IRA, we should go get a Roth, and also make sure the individual that's explaining it to you is explaining it properly. That is a problem that I see too often these days. But I'm going to give you an example here. There's a lot of individuals that want to increase their wealth. There's a lot of individuals, a lot of you that want to maximize the opportunity in front of them. Let's look at an example like 2008, 2009. If you don't understand asymmetric risk, the game is very difficult for you. There's a great book, I've mentioned it the other day, by Tony Robbins called The Holy Grail of Investing. What is the Holy Grail? The Holy Grail is really anything that's going to allow you to exponentially grow your wealth with lowering the amount of risk. Now, some of you hopefully are old enough to go gamble, so you'll understand this reference. But if I go to the blackjack table, or if I go to the roulette table, and they say, listen, if you win, I'm going to give you 3 to 10 times your money. If you lose, I'm going to give you half of what you bet back. I bet you're going to stay at that table for a while, right? So a lot of us are being told, oh, go put your money in a CD. I did have a gentleman told this. He said, no, don't put your money in that. Put your money in a CD, and we're going to have that CD that's going to grow for you for the next 5 years, and you're going to be locked in at a 4.5% interest rate. You don't have to worry about losing. You don't have to worry about zeros. The problem is when inflation is higher than the CD, that math doesn't math. So I understand if you want safety, if you're getting older, I completely understand where you're coming from, but you're also not necessarily at a point of asymmetric risk. But what if you could put yourself in a position where you do have some asymmetric risk, because you can still ride the market without losing? But hold on, Stacks, I'm 19 years old. I'm trying to build my wealth. I don't want to wait until I'm 65 years old to retire. How do I do it? Well, think about the real estate that I mentioned before. In 08, 09, the stock market took a massive hit in September. Real estate took a hit the next, I believe it was March or April. Okay, great. What happened after that? There was a lot of individuals, and I got to watch this firsthand. There was a lot of people that went out that had liquidity. It didn't mean they were beyond wealthy, but they had some money saved up. So when that tragedy, which, honestly, on 08, 09 was a tragedy, when that happened, people were able to go scoop up real estate at a discount. And whether they rented it out and started making income consistently, I'm not saying passive because there's still work associated there, or if they bought it at a discount and then were able to sell it, but instead of getting a 10% return on their money, what if they returned 30, 40, 50%? Oh, but Chris, it's not guaranteed. You're right, but the money in your 401k is not guaranteed. The money in your IRA is not a guaranteed return. But instead of waiting, so 7 to 10 years, it's going to take me on average, 7%, it's going to take me 10 years to double my money. 10 years, yes. But what if, because of being smart, you're able to leverage your money because you put it in something that is liquid, something that you can have access to it. And now I'm gaining my 7 to 10%. But then whenever the market takes a hit, whenever the real estate stock market, if you're into cars, if you're into watches, whatever it is, whenever that market, whenever there's people that do not have the ability to afford what they have, what if you can go get asymmetric risk by betting your money on that market at the bottom and then being able to double or triple your money in return, or even get a 50% return? You just sped up your time to double your money by 5 years. At the minimum, if you doubled your money, then you just did a 10-year move in 1 year. And yes, you have to be patient to do this. It does take time. So the rule of 72, there's two ways to look at it. The rule of 72 is I'm going to be patient and I'm hopefully going to have money in 50 years, or I'm going to be patient and I'm going to leverage the rule of 72 right now because I understand that putting my money aside is still going to grow, but I'm going to be smart enough to put my money somewhere where it's liquid and where I have access to it while it's still growing. So then every time the market comes down, I'm able to use that money to go double up. I'm using that money to go do a 30%, 40%, 50% return. If you think the wealthiest people in our country are going out there and they're aiming for a 7 to 10% average return, you're not reading the tea leaves. You're not paying attention. The market went up 200%. I believe it's in the last 5 years. I've got too many numbers in my head right now. I believe it's in the last 5 years, the market went up 200%. Did you get a 200% return on your money? If you did not, guess what? You're not doing the same thing that they are. That's my goal. I want you to understand I was able to take money and 5x my money in about a month. Why? Because I saw what was coming and I had the right conversations. I was talking to the right people. Now imagine, because I had this conversation with Mandy, she'll tell you directly. We had a conversation about 6 or 7 months ago. Why don't we just put money in the S&P 500 and let it ride? Because we're going to make so much money. And I said, honey, we can do that when we're 65. We can do that when we're 55 and we're already billionaires. That's not my goal right now. My goal right now is to have our money grow. But every time that there's an opportunity for us to take advantage of what's going on, instead of being taken advantage of, I want to go out there and do that. And I highly recommend you put yourself around people that are having that conversation, speaking that language. The majority of people are trying to teach you how to stay middle class. That is not my goal. My goal is to make sure you're armed with the exact same things that the wealthiest people in this country are doing. So if you choose to, and this is not for everybody, my advice, my language, the way I view things is not for everybody. I'm okay with that. But those individuals that are just crazy enough to say, I don't want to be middle class for the rest of my life, I don't want to be like everybody else, my goal is to help you achieve that and not have to be 65 years old to do it. So if that's you, I hope you got value from this. Rule of 72, remember that, asymmetric risk. Rule of 72 is how long it's going to take me to double my money based on the rate of return that I'm getting. Remember, the average return is 7 to 10%. Asymmetric risk is understanding where I can put my money. And if I lose, I'm going to lose some. But if I win, I'm going to get those 30%, 50%, maybe doubling, tripling, quadrupling, which is what a lot of people did after the 01 crash, which is what a lot of people did after the 08 crash. It doesn't mean it's every day. So there's patience involved, just like the rule of 72, just like going to the gym. I've got to be patient when I go to the gym to get to the returns. If I get injured, I've got to be patient because it takes me time to come back. But if you're willing to be patient, if you're willing to not only leverage the rule of 72 in the short term, but you're willing to watch for those asymmetric returns, that's how you're going to add a zero to your net worth. I hope you found this very valuable. I hope you're able to utilize this. Please, if you do, comment down below. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. It's Chris Dax. Shoot me a message on there. Hit subscribe, hit like. I appreciate you all. I hope you have an amazing night, both on Facebook and YouTube, and we'll talk soon.